Hi. In this video, I will explain how to create a trigger from our program into an action from another program. So, let us create a zap by clicking this icon here, make a zap, and then, let's name this zap as trigger, new client, then an action from another program. Let's say that it is action new client in Google Spreadsheet. This is the other program. We will be using a spreadsheet from Google. Now we already have our zap name. It is really basic and easy to understand. The next thing to do now is to get the trigger from our program, but first, let us search our app or our program, then we click it. And then, we select the trigger from that program. In this case we have here the list of all the triggers from our program. We have here new client, new lead, new affiliate, new not active client, update, and status changed. In this case, we will be using the trigger new client. Basically, this trigger is executed whenever we add a new client in our program, or if a client is modified into an active client. For example, let's say that the client is an affiliate, and then it is modified or updated, or assigned as an active client, or a lead that is assigned as an active client. This will be triggered. So let us select this one, and then click Continue. Once we find our program and selected a trigger, we now signed into our program. Now, this basically is not your simple signing in form. This is where you input the keys that you generated from our program, in the Zapier settings. Now, let's go back to our program and copy them. We go to the menu, then My Settings, then Zapier Settings. Then we copy this API key first, and paste it here. Then next is the secret key, then paste it also here. The third field here is the program URL. This is the URL of your assigned program, so let's say that you are assigned or you have your program URL as 1000.cmmcloud.com, or 7777.cmmcloud.com. So you put your subdomain URL here so that the Zap will know what database to get the data from. Well, in this case, I am going to use the main program URL, which is cmmcloud.com. Then we click Yes, Continue. Once we have that, we will choose the just signed in account, and then click Continue. So now, what we see here is test trigger. It says that, we'll find a recent client in your Credit Money Machine web account, to confirm that the right account is connected and your trigger is set up correctly. So this just tests your trigger if it works, and it check if a client can be retrieved from your program. So let's test it out by clicking this test trigger icon. At this moment, it found a client named Portia McFan. Now, let us see if Portia really exists in our program. So yes, it exists. Now, this field here are all the fields retrieved from our program. We have the type, first name, status, group, company, etc. These will be the one to be merged into the action from another program. Now let's continue. So, the trigger is already set up, the next one to do is our action. So our action is also creating a new client, but in this case it is in Google Spreadsheet in another program. So, let's find the Google Spreadsheet in this app field. And we have it right here, then we click on it. And then, we will choose an action event from the Google Spreadsheet. So Google Spreadsheet here has a lot of actions that we can select, but now what we want is to create a new client from our spreadsheet row, so let us select this one, Create Spreadsheet Row, which create a new row in a specific spreadsheet. I have here my spreadsheet ready, which is titled New Clients from Credit Money Machine Web. So whenever we add a contact or client in our program, it will also be added in the spreadsheet we have here. So we select an action, and then continue. Once we already find the program spreadsheet, and selected an action event, we can now choose what account to let the data go. So we have here my account, and then click Continue. Now, Google Spreadsheet have their fields here to be merged from our trigger. So let's just merge our trigger in the required fields. So spreadsheet and worksheets are required, so we will select the spreadsheet. Again, the spreadsheet that I prepared is new client, so we will select that one. Now, what worksheet to use? Since I only have one sheet, we will select this one. So basically, the Google Spreadsheet program has all the fields to be merged. As you can see here in the spreadsheet, we have the headers, first name, last name, email, type, status 1, and status 2. Now, we can merge the trigger fields we have previously into our action fields. So let us merge this. Again, we have this Portia, which is just a demo or a sample data from our trigger test earlier. So again, we will merge the first name to this first name on our triggered field. Then we have the last name, and then the email, and then the type, and then the status 1, and then the status 2. We can search it if you don't want to browse. Now, we have here everything in place. We already have our fields merged from the trigger fields into the action fields. Now let's continue. Previously, we have test trigger, now we have test action. It is just to check if the trigger, which is Portia, will really work and create a new client into this action program, the Google Spreadsheet. So the test trigger earlier was Portia, so now, let us check if Portia will be added into Google Spreadsheet as a new row. It says here that test was successful. Now let's check if Portia really went into our spreadsheet into a new row, and yes, it did. Now, we are ready to turn the Zap on, so that whenever we have new clients over here in our program, it will be automatically added into an action program we have here. So click Turn on Zap. Then let us try adding manually contact into our program. Let's say we add Phoebe Buffet, then the email will be phoebe@buffet.friends. Our trigger is a new client, so we have to select a client type, so let's select the active client, and then we set the status as active client also, then we click Save. But right now, since we didn't save it yet, there is no Phoebe Buffet added here in our action app or action program, the spreadsheet. Now let's try clicking to save, and let's see if this trigger works by getting the data and putting it into our action event in Google Spreadsheet. So yes, it did. So it works. Now, let's try to use our special feature, which is be happier with the Zapier with the Zap that we created. As you know, the trigger that we selected is a new client, so let's click this icon, then the trigger new client is included, so this works by not manually adding a new client but instead using the shown contacts on the list as new clients. So all of this, if we click our trigger here, it will be showed as new clients, and will be added in the action program. So let us do it, but, let's say that we only want to add the check marked here, so we will select them first, and 3 contacts will be shown as new client, so we will click this trigger, and let's check if these threads are added. And yes, it did. So that's it. Thank you.